Hello and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And once again here we are in New York, just over the Statue of Liberty. In my last video I demonstrated the frame rates we were getting from an Intel i5 7600K processor. Now that processor at ultra settings was struggling to get between 20 and 30 frames per second. It was flyable, but we did have to drop a couple of the settings. The terrain detail and the object detail had to drop pretty low. So let's fly back into New York, and as you can see the frame rate is now in the 30s to high 30s. So what's changed? The conclusion I came to in my first video was that I needed to upgrade, and that's what I've done. So I've moved from a Intel processor to a Ryzen. That also involved a motherboard upgrade and reinstallation of Windows and the flight sim and all the other things that go along with that. So it's a week later and I have now a Ryzen 3700X and a B550M motherboard from MSI. So this Ryzen gives me 8 cores with 16 threads, whereas the Intel gave me 4 cores and just 4 threads. And here we go. As we can see, this processor now has room to breathe, unlike the old i5 which was constantly hitting 100% usage. The GPU, however, is hitting the high 80s, 90s and generally sitting around 99% at most times. I haven't upgraded the graphics card, it's still a GTX 1070 and it's still doing a good job. Although right now I don't think it'd be worth the cost to upgrade to a 2000 or maybe a new 3000 series Nvidia graphics card, when the 3000 series come out anyway. I think the cost will be hugely prohibitive for what could be very small gains. So right here we can see the graphics card is struggling to keep up. The frame rate is dropping into the 20s. So here we head into Central Park. So we could make some changes to the settings to maybe improve the frame rate here, as it's obviously GPU limited. So these are my settings. I've set everything to ultra except for the terrain and object level of detail, which I dropped to 150. So I'm still hitting the 30s, it does drop occasionally into the 20s, but this is a really heavily built up area. In my previous video I had to drop the object level of detail and terrain level of detail down to, I think it was 25, to get anywhere near this level of performance. Upgrading to the Ryzen has been quite a significant change, not only in Microsoft Flight Simulator but everything else obviously, and Asobo Studios will undoubtedly be updating the simulator to improve performance in the future. If you're contemplating upgrading from an older CPU to a new one, then hopefully this will give you some sort of idea what to expect. Have fun and take care.